I'm calling this meeting to order. Welcome to Sedro Woolley Rotary, the best Rotary Club in the universe. Today's invocation will be with my good friend, Christine Kilcup, who is very excited about this opportunity to speak.
I'm so excited. Let us pray. We're thankful for this day, its blessings, opportunities, and challenges. Let's appreciate and use each day to its fullest, finding strength and guidance for each day's duties and problems. I don't pray, so amen.
Thank you. All right, now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please join in the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And today's song, David's not here, so who would like to volunteer to sing? Who's a good... All right, let's take us out to the ballpark. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't know if I ever get back, for it's root, root, root for the Mariners. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out of the old ball game. All right, you can be seated. All right, first off, do we have any visiting Rotarians today? Nope. All right, do we have any guest Rotarians? I think Tim Howland does. Oh, can you use the microphone so that online folks can hear you?
I'd like to introduce Rachel McDonald. She's the director of our new Sedro Woolley Library.
Welcome, Rachel.
My sons Nash and Hayes are here, but they're outside at the park. But in case they come inside, my boys are here visiting. So they're enjoying the park.
And my grandson, Josh Allen.
Welcome, Josh. All right, anyone else? All right, well, welcome to all of our visitors. Let's see. So I know this is a favorite of everyone's. So let's take a quick minute and answer this week's question. If you could meet any historical figure, who would it be? Talk amongst yourselves. If you could meet any historical figure, who would it be? And then we'll have Rick go around with a microphone and get a summary. Rick, congratulations.
I'll be the first to respond to that, Ruth. I'll be the first to respond to that. Abraham Lincoln, my birthday is the same day as his, so I would enjoy meeting him.
Meet him soon enough. What's that? Meet him soon enough. Come on, gentlemen.
Because she said Rick.
No.
Somebody got something. You're Sergeant of Arms, so I know. Might as well get used to the
So Don Stryker says he'd like to meet Ben Franklin, the wild man. All right. Hey, Rick, can you take the microphone around to folks? Okay, Travis. You're the first table. Who is someone interesting you guys wanted to meet?
Well, we're going to go off Tucker's suggestion, and I would like to meet Don Ostrom.
All right. I don't know what to say about that. Can you pass it to the next table?
We decide.
We decided to choose Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, I like it.
Well, our first answer was Jesus because we got questions. And then we wanted to meet Leonardo da Vinci and the curator of the Louvre and the archivist at the, where? Alexander the Great's library that burned down. Yeah. So we had a few.
That's good. And last table.
So we had a few ideas. Harriet Tubman, that was a great one, as she led the Underground Railroad and the release of many slaves. We had a couple for Gandhi, revolution through peaceful protest. Mine is much simpler. I love peanut butter, so George Washington Carver, the big promoter of peanut butter, but he was also a chemist, a botanist, scientist, and professor. So
awesome.
That's us.
All right. Hey, thanks. All right, so moving on to club business. So next week we have Don McMorrin from the WSU Skagit Ag Extension, and it's also anniversary week. So you should be or have already received an email from Yulia confirming your attendance so she can get roses for your spouse. And on August 22nd, we have Hannah McNutt from Bloodworks Northwest. And don't forget that August 29th meeting is canceled. They'll be doing work on the flooring in here. And then we have Rotary events, and I'm just trying to plug these so no one forgets the following 2 Thursday evenings. One is the golf scramble. And I think Carl will probably make an announcement about that in about 2 seconds. That's on September 5th at Overlook. And then the salmon barbecue, I'm sure Josh is all over that and already has everything under control. Carl, you wanted to make an announcement?
All right, we're going to have a golf tournament. Once again, lots of prizes. This year, the focus on prizes is useful ones. And not that we've never had useful ones in the past, but we're going to have, I think we decided on stakes, garden baskets, restaurant certificates. Everybody gets golf balls because we know we're going to lose a few. And other things to be determined, but we're trying to have some fun with it. We are going to, our committee heads here, who we've adopted Mark Nelson on, and Don from Right Way, we're going to go around and visit other Rotary clubs and try to get at least a twosome or a couple of twosomes from the other clubs. And then we can have a little inter-Rotary controversy and conflict and competition, and, you know, let's have some fun with it. September 5th.
Yeah, so for the second year in a row, we swapped Thursdays in September with the golf tournament. And that was Nick's request. And I'm not even sure if Nick can even make it to the golf tournament this year or the salmon barbecue. So anyway, we can blame that one on Nick. I'm going to give him a hard time for that for the next 5 years. So we haven't had a very good turnout the last couple of years, I'll be honest. And that's disappointing because that stuff that we cook is so good, you guys. It's such a great meal, you know, that we provide to all the Rotarians. So let's put it on your calendars right now. Let's get a good turnout this year. Bring your families, and you know, let's see if we can beat last year's turnout. Okay, so September 12th.
And then Rick and Dan Sims are trying to put together a little Rotary car show for that night as well at the park. So stay tuned for that. If you've got a classic car, talk to Rick or Dan and see what they're going to do with that. I figure it's fun for all the kids to see those classics. So, and then I received an email from Chris Rothenbuehler, and she's online today because she didn't want to eat pizza. And she has a ton of blueberries at her office that are going to go unclaimed. And she said, if you want some fresh blueberries, to come on over to Rothenbuehler Engineering and pick some because she doesn't want them to go to waste. And you can contact Chris for more information. All right, I think that's it as far as club business. Did I miss anyone? All right, I think we have a raffle then with John, and Rick will probably jump in and help because Becky's not able to be here.
Number 62. Winners table pay is $2 each. That's a Bill McCann table item.
Chuck, you're collecting money.
Number 36.
Is it the truth?
Wine. Number 55.
Mark's got more.
Past presidents pay $2. One more here. Number 50. 50.
All right, now we have Sergeant at Arms and Happy Bucks with Chuck and Rick.
We all know that the Olympics have been going on for the past couple of weeks, so I'm going to do some Olympic inquiries, but not to include the current Olympic games that are going on because things are changing daily with that. So, you guys, the modern day Olympics was designed for the modern day Olympics, the logo was designed in what year? What, 1984 or 1884? No, pay $2. Born in 1913. The modern day Olympics was started in 1896, but the design and the logo was designed in 1913. I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. What are the 5 colors of the rings in the logo? No. Four out of 5, that's good enough. It's black, not white. Yeah. Okay, so you know that there are the 5 rings, and those 5 rings symbolize what? Yes, do you know what they are? Yeah, which ones that were specified on Google that the 5 rings represent? Well, again, close enough. Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and the Americas is what it says. So, yes. Yeah, okay. Okay, this table. Okay. there are a variety of things, but how many different categories does the Olympic have? That's a grouping of all the aquatics, grouping of the equestrian, grouping of the track and field, but how many individual categories do they list? Not the events, not the number of events. Put away your phone, Don. Yeah, track and field, equestrian is one, aquatics is one, but how many different classifications do they have? Sorry, 32. And for the 26th, there'll be 40. They're adding some funky stuff for that one. So not including this year's Olympics, how many medals has the U.S. won in the Summer Olympics since 1896 up until 2020? They won how many medals? within 100. Four. That's your answer? 2,655. How many of them were gold? A 1,070. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty good. Okay, Jen, I'll make this one easy on you. What athlete, regardless of country, has won the most medals? Male. How many? And who was the female? It could be any country, not US. Yes. Okay. So you only have to pay $1 then. It was Larissa Latinia she was a Soviet gymnast, and she has won 18. Okay. Okay, online crew, here you go. We got one for you. Countries pay their athletes monies for the medals that they win. How much does the U.S. pay a recipient for a gold medal win? Nobody responding?
Don Stryker says 10,000. And Frank Wagner says 25, and Pat Eason says 50. Any of those right?
No.
All right.
The U.S. pays a recipient of the gold medal $37,500.
She Googled that. There's no
Silver
way.
gets $22,500. Bronze gets $1,500. And in comparison, now these monies are changed into US dollars. China pays their recipients $768,000. Israel pays $271,000. And the bottom of the list is Australia at $13,000. So there we are, Ruth. It's all yours.
Happy Bucks?
Oh, happy Bucks. Happy Bucks, happy Bucks. And if you weren't here last week, anniversaries and birthdays. Birthdays are 2, anniversaries are 3.
We got a couple of happy bucks here for Coconut Kinney's today. There's some pizza left, by the way, you guys. I called Coconut Kinney's this morning at 10:15. They don't open till 11, and they picked up the phone. So this kid that brought the pizza here, he's the one that picked up the phone, and I said, good for you. I said, that's going to go a long way around here in this community. So give them a little bit of a plug for doing that.
I got a happy 20. My son promoted to sergeant.
I got a 10 in light of our guest today. Apparently, his outfit is stealing one of the guys that I hired a few years ago, Max.
You know, yeah, well, you know, you're getting a good guy. You're getting a real good guy. We got a bunch of really good folks.
I have a happy 10. Both of my nephews are getting baptized along with 2 other Janaki kids tomorrow.
Cool. And don't forget, next week is anniversary week. There are 12 members that have weddings or anniversaries this month, so be sure to bring your spouses.
I don't have cash, so I'm going to Venmo 20. 10 of it is happy bucks because my son is going to be in the Tag Ed Peter Pan Jr. production starting tomorrow at Conway Elementary. So there are 5 opportunities to see all the kids that have been working so hard for the past 2 weeks. Tomorrow at 7, Saturday at 2 and 5, and Sunday at 2 and 5. So the kids have been working really hard and he's been having a great time. And then the other 10 happy bucks is for the Evergreen Golf Tournament that is still on August 23rd. And there's still room for Rotarians to sign up.
All right. So one more announcement before I introduce our guest. Did everyone see these sitting up by the wheel? If not, you can get up to 2 for now, and you'll probably be able to get more later. So grab them if you didn't. All right, I'd like to introduce Ryan Valentine. He's a fish and wildlife police officer and in the law enforcement program. And he's going to tell us about his job and the inner workings of all that it is that he does today.
How's everybody doing? Everybody hear me? All righty. Okay. Yeah, I kind of got brought in here on the last minute. So I've got, please, yes, Todd, yes, if you. So I got asked to help with the program this month, and
like a lot of us, this time of year, I love to start to prepare for the seasons that I enjoy, whether it's hunting or fishing, but I start to get ready, whether it's physical or equipment or anything like that. So I thought it would be great. That's a couple of bucks. Okay. So I thought it would be great to, kind of discuss some of those things. We live probably in one of the best places in the world. I talk to my wife about this all the time. We walk outside, we kind of take some of this stuff for granted, but it's one of the best places in the world and offers us a ton of opportunity for outdoor enjoyment, whether that's harvesting, fish or wildlife, or just enjoying nature out there. And so part of that is we are compelled to make sure that we preserve it and we conserve it. And that love seeing the young guys here, because that's what it's important for, that we can pass that down and try to make it as good or a better place for them to enjoy as they grow up as well. And I had a relationship with Mr. Officer John Ludwig, and I had originally asked him to come and present and tell us a little bit about the importance of what the officers do to help us preserve and protect our resources. And John said, happily accepted. He said the only caveat to that is that my wife is pregnant. She's due at the end of the month, but who knows what could happen. 2 days prior to this meeting, John calls and says, hey man, I'm on my way to the hospital. My wife's gonna have a baby. So I'm like, darn it, what's plan B? And he goes, I'll do my best to get someone to fill in for me. And I was very concerned, and I was like, well, what am I gonna do? And Ryan called me up within, less than a day, and graciously accepted to fill in for John and to help us out with some of that stuff. So I originally met Ryan when my sweet goat Clara was made a snack by a cougar, and we had a great conversation about it, had some laughs about it. So feel free to throw questions at
Sergeant Valentine, and if he doesn't know it, he knows someone that does know it. So appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Okay, so thank you, Todd. That's wonderful. Yeah, my plan is I'll just kind of give you guys a quick introduction to me. More than happy to talk about anything that you'd like. I'll go over a few things up front, and then I can we can field questions. I'm happy to stick around for as long as you guys want me to, or kick me out. That's great. Yeah, I enjoy being able to come and talk to folks in different groups, and so it's always a pleasure. So I was happy to be able to accept, and thank you guys for having me. So yeah, so my background, my name's Ryan Valentine. I have been with Department of Fish and Wildlife. You see, I put up there law enforcement police, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. With them for almost working on 23 years. So started, yeah, quite a while back. My first duty station with this agency was down in Issaquah. So I worked down there for just a short period of time, about a year and a half. And I transferred and took the Bellingham duty station, and I've been up in that area ever since. I was originally born back in the Midwest. I was born in Iowa. Then we moved to Virginia and Texas for a short period of time. Not military. My dad was just in outside sales. Used to work for like Caterpillar, selling big heavy machinery. And so that took us around a little bit. But then we moved to Othello when I was a kid, and that's where my mom grew up. Anybody know where Othello is here? Yeah, a few people do. Exactly. No joke, Eric. No way. That's small world. Yeah. So yeah, we came back up there early 80s. Grew up on a farm, 15 minutes out of town. So I wasn't even in the bustling metropolis of Othello with 2,000 people back in the 80s. I was out on a farm. So then we moved to Spokane. I graduated high school in Spokane from Meade High School. And then I came over here to Western and graduated from Western. That's what brought me over here onto the west side. And then, yeah, didn't always plan on being a game warden. I initially thought my initial goal was to be a pro athlete. That fizzled fast. So I did a lot of sporting, a lot of sports when I was a kid. That's what I enjoyed doing. But when I got close to graduating from Western, I had a buddy who's now an Olympia cop, and he was the one who said, "Hey, Ryan, you got a pretty good background growing up, and you should start taking some law enforcement tests with me." And so that's what I started doing. And then lo and behold, I took a test with City of Marysville, and there was this guy there that some of you may know, a guy named Rich Phillips. He was helping proctor the exam with Marysville's police department, and he was in plain clothes. He wasn't in uniform. So I thought he worked for Marysville. Well, then several months later, I interviewed with Fish and Wildlife, and that same guy, Rich Phillips, was there in uniform with Fish and Wildlife. And I remembered him, and luckily enough, he remembered me. And he was the one who sold this particular agency to me of like why you should come work for Fish and Wildlife as opposed to working for a conventional law enforcement agency. And so I was very lucky. And then lo and behold, super small world, Rich Phillips' first duty station for the Department of Fish and Wildlife was Othello. And my uncle sold him and his wife their first house in Othello. So that was a super small world, but anyway. So yeah, so I've stuck with this agency since then. It's had a lot of highs and lows, mainly highs. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Just recently, a couple of years ago, I moved into the supervisory role, the sergeant's position, which means that I supervise now the land-based officers in both Whatcom and Skagit counties. And a little bit of a breakdown with our law enforcement program is that we have like officers that focus primarily out on the saltwater, on the marine issues, that handle and patrol all the recreational and commercial fisheries that occur out on the saltwater. They do help us on land periodically, and we also help them out on patrols out on the saltwater periodically as well. I'm on the land-based side of things, so all your hunting, all your freshwater fishing, all your bear and cougar issues, all kinds of just land-based issues, that's what I do. And it's good. It's a good time. Being from the east side, I tend to be more of a land guy. So that's what I enjoy doing. Yeah, the little bit of the background on the law enforcement and police, that's when I started. I always still call it the law enforcement program. But it's a little bit easier to tell people that we are a police agency because we are. And many folks that have background in police issues understand the term of general authority law enforcement, which is what we are. When I started, we were not a general authority law enforcement agency, but when you're a general authority law enforcement agency, that means that you can enforce all the criminal laws of Washington state. So people ask me all the time, like, what do you do? You know, and I always ask them with a return question of like, do you hunt or fish? And if people do, if they do hunt and fish, they know generally what I do. But if they don't, then it becomes something where I tell them, okay, here's what I do. I enforce hunting and fishing laws primarily. That's my focus. But as a general authority law enforcement officer, we can do other things too. And the magic thing that everybody seems to want to know is if I can write tickets for speeding. And I tell them, yeah, I can. But I don't very often, unless somebody's being a knucklehead, you know? So luckily enough, in the agency, in the areas where we live, especially in Whatcom being a border county, there's an abundance of law enforcement, but a lot of our officers over in rural eastern Washington counties where there's not as much population, those officers assist a lot of the PDs and the county deputies quite a bit, just because, just numbers are thin at times. So yeah, so we can do all that stuff. If that makes anything more legitimate in people's eyes, that's how I describe our agency. Yeah, is this the clicker? Okay, let's see if it actually, okay. All right, so yeah, again, being last minute, I don't have a whole lot of verbiage on here for you guys. I'm just gonna show you some pictures. That's what's gonna happen, and I'll talk about it, and then we'll kind of go from there and handle questions. So yeah, we patrol. Again, when that guy, Rich Phillips, was telling me about stuff that, selling the program, I was like, boy, I get to be on dirt bikes, jet skis, snowmobiles, that I get to go and do patrols on that stuff. And you guys are going to pay me money to do this? It's like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. So yeah, so that's kind of things like that was exciting to me, to be able to have adventures, being able to be outside, not being in the city all the time, if I didn't have to be, even though we do work and deal with a lot of fish and wildlife issues that tend to be in the city. But yeah, here's just a couple of our officers, just on dirt bike patrol. That's up near Baker Lake, where we patrol quite a bit. Certainly for anybody that's a fisherman or fisherwoman, person who fishes. There's a sockeye fishery going on up at Baker Lake, and we work with Puget Sound Energy and U.S. Forest Service to assist them in being able to monitor that fishery and patrol that and help out up there. And we do that by boat, we do that by truck, we do that by motorcycles. So that's a couple of our officers there. Some of you may have heard too, and Todd and I were talking about this, and it might as well bring it up now. The officer there on your guys' right, that's Officer David Miller. He works in the eastern part here of Skagit County. Super great guy. He used to be a Burlington cop. Again, he's another one that we stole to come over and work for our agency. And unfortunately for him, he's out right now from getting his shoulder busted up by, it was just a bad dude who had some warrants that he got into a tussle with. And so he just had shoulder surgery after the incident, dealing with a guy, and his shoulder surgery was here just last month. And so unfortunately he's out for quite a few months. And so it's just the nature of our job, where most of the time, the reason I bring it up is it's just that most of the time our job is very, very, we deal with people that are compliant. Compliant stuff, I make this number up in my head. There's no science behind it. I'm sure there's numbers somewhere, but I just say 80% of the people we contact generally following all the rules when it's coming to hunting and fishing, and or just any laws that we have to enforce. And so then I say there's about another 18% of people that might have some kind of violation one way or the other, maybe fishing, hunting, maybe they have a warrant for their arrest, and we got to take them into jail if the jail's going to be able to accept them. There's only about 2% of the people that I really say that are real knuckleheads that we got to deal with, and in our hunting and fishing world that I talk about that are real, true, like chronic serial type poachers that just want to do whatever they want to do. And those are the people that I really do like to catch, because they are the ones that are truly a threat to the resource for everything that we try to enjoy and maintain and take care of for our future generations. And so back with David Miller. He's a great guy. He's doing fine. He's in a little bit of pain right now, dealing with that injury. And it's tough because there's not a whole lot of us. Might as well talk about that. In our land-based division, we are actually having some success in being able to recruit a lot of people, especially after COVID and a lot of police reform that you guys know of and have heard of. Police reform has been tricky in terms of how we can enforce laws or just the different ways things that we have to do to be able to enforce laws. I'm sure many of you have heard about some of those things. And so then also with COVID mandates and vaccines and things of that nature, right around that time, those early 2020s, a lot of officers were fired and forced to leave if they didn't get a vaccination. And so our agency was no different. We had vaccines, and so then we lost some people, but we're luckily enough now in the process of being able to rehire some of those folks. And with the police reform, we've actually grabbed a lot of conventional law enforcement officers that are like, I'm not really interested in working in Seattle anymore, and want to try to come do this kind of job. So we've been pretty lucky in that regard. I reside up in Whatcom County. I have 2 officers, land-based officers up there that work the land-based issues in Whatcom County. And then I have 3 down here in Skagit County. And Max Rosser from Sedro Woolley PD he's in the process of coming over to us here soon after he gets through all his just transition training with our agency. And so he can't be here fast enough because we need some help with John Ludwig, who's he's your area Sedro Woolley officer. And with him having a baby, his 3rd, he's got his hands full. So we're excited to hopefully get Max on here soon. And with Miller being out for a little while, we try to handle as many of the issues as we can. There's Officer Ludwig. He's one of your local guys for any of you that live here in Sedro Woolley. Again, we patrol all over. He comes and helps up in Whatcom County, and I come down here and help in Skagit County when I can. This is just another picture up on Baker Lake, different things that we do. Jet ski patrols are always a treat. They're a good time. Snowmobile patrols, we work with Washington State Parks and assist them with a lot of their snow park areas and doing patrols on snowmobile enforcement. Some other things, fishing. This is just from a fishing derby up in Whatcom County that I try to attend every year. We do a lot of community outreach stuff where we can to just kind of get our name out there a little bit more. This is this is our prime clientele, though. It's always a treat, but it's a lot of people from time to time. Let's see what else we have. And this is some other fun stuff that we get to deal with periodically. It's not just in Sedro Woolley and Bellingham, folks. It's all over the place, as many of you know. This was up on some timber company property, and the timber company reached out to us to help them get some of these squatter folks that had been up on this property off their property, which we did, which you can tell they'd been there for a little while. Yes, sir. I think that I think it might be. And that is just by accident. I didn't necessarily plan that. So, yeah. So, gosh, as I look at it, it sure looks like one too. That's amazing. Yeah, they grab anything and everything to make their homes. So, yeah, some of the stuff that we deal with, especially on the land-based side of things, obviously, it's a prevalent thing, as many of you know. And so it's tough. It's really tough dealing with these situations. Again, we don't have real easy rules to just be able to get people to just pack up as much as I'd like to be able to get them to just get out of these different areas, especially when they're on private property. Makes it challenging. And even when they're on public property, sometimes it gets even a little bit more tricky. Okay, this is always kind of a fun topic. Some of the stuff that we do is we trap bears, cougars, relocate them, euthanize some of them. This was from incident up in out in Maple Falls in Whatcom County. God, it's been quite a few years ago. That's Officer Ludwig on the left, Officer Jorg in the middle with one of our Karelian bear dogs, which those dogs we use for wildlife work. I think they're from Finland and they're bred for bear work primarily, but we use them for cougar work as well too. So that cougar came in and whacked 3 sheep. Farmer, well, actually it was just a landowner, had 3 sheep up in Maple Falls, and this is tough. Anybody have goats and sheep here in the house today? Raise your hands. Don't be ashamed. There you go. Todd, besides Todd. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So we deal with this. And when I started with the agency, I used to do this a lot more. Now we actually have kind of built out our agency, and due to what our current police chief for our agency, who came from Alaska Department of Fish and Game, we have kind of separated a little bit from the enforcement officers always doing this work. We've hired what we call wildlife conflict specialists. And so those people are fantastic, and they're super helpful because they realized folks with, the guns and badges didn't always need to be doing all this work. Even though I do enjoy it, it's fun. My kids have been able to see a lot of cool stuff over the years from being able to deal with some of these animals. But our conflict specialists help us out. And for many of you that live here and live in the Valley, those same conflict specialists also deal with a lot of our deer and elk damage issues. Again, I used to deal with that primarily up in Whatcom County, and it's not as bad as Skagit County, but that's always a difficult situation to deal with because I'm empathetic to both sides of that argument. But yeah, on this particular instance, we ended up being able to, we found that cougar that was still near the kill site of those animals, and we were able to run it with the dog and tree it and dart it and ear tag it. As you can see next to my left hand there's a little yellow tag there in its ear, which we do anytime we put drugs into animals to knock them out. So if we do that primarily in case a hunter were to harvest one of these animals, those drugs last in those animals for a period of time. And so there's a phone number on there for people to call in if they were to harvest one of those animals under a regular hunt. And then we relocated that one out in Snohomish. Yes, Todd. Right.
taken away from us. Conflicts seem to be rising, and there's rumorville happening about, you know, Washington State pushing to totally remove predator hunting. Can you kind of speak to the evolution of that and any truth in some of that?
For sure, yeah. So I believe it was 1996 by voter initiative, the prohibition of being able to use hounds to pursue cougar and bear were prohibited, eliminated. And also in that same bill was the baiting of bears and bobcats as well, to be able to use dogs for that. And since that time, things have been, for the most part, pretty quiet, I would say, for the most part, but it's been kind of odd in the last several years. In my feelings and in my opinion, it seems like there's been a trend upward in the amount of calls that we get. Any law enforcement administrator will tell you, and these are people above my pay grade, that they'll tell you that there's a lot of different variables included, which I know that there are, partly due to population expansion, as we've all seen post-COVID. Just the explosion of people coming up to Whatcom and Skagit counties, people just relocating and homes being built, habitat for a lot of these animals being encroached upon. And so that creates conflict. To Todd's point, there have been some things that have been put in place that have slowly changed hunting towards what people will qualify as predators, in this case, like black bears and cougars. And we used to have a spring bear hunt that is now ceased to exist, which is unfortunate, in my opinion. I appreciated being able to have folks have an opportunity to be able to shoot bears in the spring, as there's many of those bears, when they come out of hibernation, what they do, the tree farms, the people, the timber company owners, they experience a lot of damage from those bears, because when they come out, those bears are looking for food and sugars and proteins as quickly as they can. And they will peel trees with their claws to get to I think it's the cambium layer, I believe is what it is. And it's a sweet layer in these trees that they will get resources and nutrients from, and that kills those trees. And so timber companies do not like those bears, and being able to have a hunt during that time slows down the population and kind of keeps it in check. That's been eliminated. There are people, if you follow hunting and fishing, there are groups of folks that really do rally around wanting to have predator hunting eliminated. And there's a lot of thoughts and beliefs as to why they want to do that. But yeah, we just still continue to deal with what we can deal with. Many of the animals that we get, that we trap, with cougars in particular, it's a tough situation. I get a lot of people that like to call, and they have a goat or a sheep that gets killed, and they say, hey, I need you to come out here and get rid of this animal. And I'm like, okay, tell me about what you've got going on. And it's just, they've gone and they wanted to clear an area or keep an area of their land clear. And so they put a goat with a collar on it, and they run it on a zip line to clear a particular area. I mean, it's just a chicken nugget on a little zip line. But they'll tell me like, well, you need to come out here and you need to trap this cougar, but you can't kill it. I need you to move it somewhere else. I just don't want it here because it's killing my goats. And it's like, well, we try to give a lot of education to folks to explain to them, like, listen, there's a lot of steps that you can take first to keep instances like this from happening. A lot of the animal husbandry practices, of which we have a wealth of that information on our website, if you kind of delve into it a little bit. And I direct a lot of landowners to get that information because it's very, very helpful. Many people are super open to that, but then there's others that aren't. They just want the problem to go away after they've moved out of the city of Bellingham to Maple Falls and, you know, expect to be able to live the same way. Yes, sir.
I'm going to revert back to fishing.
Yeah.
If I may. I was given my first fishing pole when I was 2 years old, and that was 76 years ago. I grew up at Dewey Beach, fishing about every chance I got. But my question has to do with the Skagit River. Now that I live in Sedro Woolley, and after being in business for 41 years here, I've been retired and I've been doing a little bit more fishing down on the Skagit. But while I was in business, it was a surveying business, and I was contracted by the Upper Skagit tribe to survey their strip of land from Highway 9 Bridge west a quarter mile. So I did that, and I asked Doreen Maloney, the Upper Skagit tribal leader, if I would be able to fish there, because they immediately put up all these signs that said, no trespassing, period. And she said, yes, on one condition. You and a guest will be able to fish there if you will replace our property corners every time it floods. So over the years, I've done that. But lately, my frustration is more with the new regulations about two things. Not being able to keep a silver that has an adipose fin, and the fact that I'm hearing a lot of animosity from the other sports fishermen about the river being closed from Highway 9 Bridge up during the time that they net. And part of the frustration is last year I got about 8 or 9 of those right off the bat, and I had to let them all go. And then the Upper Skagit come down and net, and they have all of them in their net, plus 3 other species. And they put them on the bar, which is below the Highway 9 Bridge, and I stay out of their way.
Sure.
Even though we're below the bridge. But that's another frustrating factor. I want to get your opinion about an enforcement officer with respect to why those two things have come about.
Yeah, great questions. There's, I have a lot of difficulty in this job on those issues. It's partly in that as the enforcement officer, I don't get to, I don't get to be the one in the room making the decisions on the fisheries and what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed. I just get told, go enforce the laws that we made. And it's tough because many times I'm putting my hands in the air as well and trying to wonder, like, why are we doing this? Some of the things that I'd heard regarding coho, the silvers, is that estimated forecasts were bad. And a lot of times with sea running fish, anadromous fish that run out to the salt and come back, they're on different cycles. And so some of the cycles have not been good as of late. And so depending on who you talk to, some folks will say that our department gets to be a little overly conservative on our estimates. And that's where seasons end up getting shut down and very restrictive. When it comes with the tribal folks, the co-managers, it's difficult. It's difficult for anybody to deal with, especially when you're a non-tribal fisher and you see netting occur and some of the fish that you can't keep, they are allowed to keep. And so it's a challenge. I don't have jurisdiction over the tribal law enforcement folks. And for anybody who really cares, I've been sued by them before, by actually personally and professionally in a hunting arena for actions that I took with them. And it was basically just because there was a misunderstanding in terms of what laws we could enforce. And so it is challenging to see all those different things. I don't know when they will get better, probably on increased runs of fish. When there's more fish, everybody wins. And the closures are challenging, but the one thing that I know that they like to be able to do, the reason that they end up having those in place is from past history of negative interactions of many people that are non-tribal folks being in that same area. And I can tell you from being the law enforcement arm of the agency, I appreciate those closures in that regard, because to be able to keep people off the river and allow the tribes to be able to conduct their business for a couple days, and then when they get off the river and then open it back up, makes things a little bit easier for me. I know it's not fun for the recreational sportsmen for sure, but yeah, I think in terms of the coho, even, I mean, the native coho, they just, it's all returns, and that's all dictated by a process that happens in April. It's called the North of Falcon meetings. They generally happen in Linwood locally, and that's amongst, for any that don't know, it's just all like coastal states, and that's where all the amounts of fish are dictated about how many are going to be allowed, and then they put out the pamphlet, a couple months after that. I know that's probably not the most direct answer, but yeah, I appreciate your concern. I'm sorry I don't have a more clearer answer for you, but
I think we're gonna have to.
You're gonna cut me off?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the cane. Right. We're at time.
Okay.
But
that's fine.
You can stay and people can ask questions afterwards.
My pleasure.
One-on-one.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how much time I had.
Leave,
oh yeah.
You get a very special coin.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
For your time. It's got our 4-way test on it.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Ruth.
All right. Thanks so much. And everyone, let's give Ryan a hand.
Thanks for letting me come in, you guys. I appreciate it. And I will stay here and chat with any of you for as long as you guys want to. Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you. All right. Just a reminder before we leave, any and all help putting up chairs and tables, always greatly appreciated by the regular crew.